Welcome to the Trainwell podcast, inspiring you to move more, get stronger, and have fun. I am your host, Darian, along with my co-host, Trainer Joey. And today we spoke with Trainer Kaylin, who is an avid runner. And in this episode, we talked all things running, from how to get started as a beginner to how to level up if you're already running. We talked about how to improve your running form and strength training as an amazing form of cross training to improve your running as well.
Let me tell you guys a little bit about Kaylin. First, she is super passionate about her faith, her family, her running, music, and even baked goods. She holds a degree in exercise physiology. She has her ACE personal trainer certification, and she is a UESCA run certified coach. She's been training people in the age ranges of 10 to 102, ranging in abilities from beginners to even collegiate athletes. She was a collegiate athlete herself, and she's been doing this over the last 15 years.
This was an awesome episode, so if you're looking to improve your running, get into running, whatever it may be, definitely take a listen. And also remember to check our show notes and our show description for the link to sign up with Trainwell and to sign up if you want to train specifically with Kaylin. Kaylin, we're birthday twins. How fun.
I know. Yeah. Isn't that good?
How was your guys' birthdays?
Yeah, Kaylin, what did you do for your birthday?
This is so nerdy. This is my definition of a birthday party. Okay, so a bunch of my friends woke up at the crack of dawn, and my birthday is January 4th, 1988, 1488. We ran 14.88 miles starting at 5 a.m. And then we had coffee and baked treats afterwards. And then I went to the outlets and shopped with my stepmom and my sister.
How cold was it? It was probably like 12 degrees, 10 degrees.
It was 8.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it was chilly. I'm kind of already over it. And it's January 10th. So that's probably not good, but
yeah,
we'll make it.
That sounds like a lot of fun, actually. I think that's
How about
a perfect
you?
Birthday.
What did you do?
So Jill and I and our partners, we did like a cold plunge in a river.
Oh my gosh.
It was so fun. It was great.
It's like exhilarating.
Yeah, and you know what the real exhilarating part was the lead up to it. My adrenaline was like pumping. I was like so scared to like, as I'm taking off my layers, I'm like, oh my God, what are we doing? We all held hands. I seriously got in there, immediately panicked, thought my lungs like seized up, ran out, and then felt so ashamed of myself for giving up that I went back in. But none of us made it in there for longer than 30 seconds. I don't even know if anyone made it to 30. It was frigid.
It like sucks all the air out of you.
Yeah.
Like
well, okay, so that was like a little fun convo, but I would love to know what your cherry and pit is.
Okay, well, I guess I would say my cherry was my little birthday run. That was really fun.
Yeah.
And another cherry would be we do track workouts every Tuesday morning, and we've had a woman was attacked on the bike path by our house recently. And so I'm a little skittish right now, and everybody finished their workouts before me. And this guy in our group, he's probably my dad's age and just this absolute beast of a runner. But he stayed in his car and just stayed there until I finished my whole workout and cool down, just to like make me feel safe. And I thought that was amazing.
Did you take him some hot chocolate and some donuts?
I did not that day. I wasn't prepared, but I do provide baked goods to them whenever possible. Yes, but he's awesome. And I have to say my pit already. Oh, geez. We got ransacked, our whole house, with a stomach bug the day after Christmas.
No.
Like so much vomit. No. So I haven't thrown up in 10 years and I could not stop. It was unbelievable. That was definitely like the most recent pit, I would say.
We got the same thing right after Christmas. Nasty, like Pedialyte, man. Pedialyte saved the day.
Wait, tell me.
I couldn't keep anything down.
Was it like 24-hour thing, or were you like sick? Did you have like the flu?
Oh, it was not a cold.
Oh my
It was the other
God.
things. And my son and I had it the worst. And it started for both of us between 1 and 2 a.m. And it was just like so aggressive, like every 15 to 30 minutes for, I don't know, 5-6 hours. And then it died down. But like, I didn't even attempt to eat or drink anything until about like 6 p.m. at night. That was wild. Yeah,
That
it was
sounds
something.
horrible. It's like my biggest fear to be, and knock on wood, I haven't been sick at the same time as my kids. Luckily,
Right.
like not really
Right.
sick. I don't even like. I'm like, how do people even? If I were to get sick when they were to get sick, I'd be like, how do we all function right now?
I know, like, thank God my husband had something, but he wasn't like incapacitated. Because there was a point where I was in one bathroom and my son was in the other doing the same thing. And I don't know what I would have done if he wasn't there.
But because you're a runner, you got through it because you're mentally strong AF, right?
Right. Well, I gotta be honest. The thing that I was thinking about is like our younger son, he gets stomach migraines. Every 4 to 6 weeks, he will vomit just uncontrollably every 15 minutes or so. And this happens from like 2 to 6 in the morning. And so I'm like, Kaylin, you cannot be a baby right now. Like your son does this all the time. Like you gotta suck it up.
Mom tough, man.
Oh, we start every podcast out in like the worst way recently when we're talking about like bodily fluids. We should probably get into the real deal at some point.
Yeah, Kaylin.
I'm telling you though, like runners and moms, and we're all those things. Like this is just where it goes.
Yeah, tell us, like, how did you, like, we'll start with your story. Like, tell us how you got into running. Like, were you, was it something you were always gravitated to growing up or what?
That's a great question. It always intrigued me, but I didn't grow up running. I played a bunch of sports like basketball and volleyball and tumbling and gymnastics and track, like sprints, not distance running, because I hated it. I thought it was cool that people could do it, but I hated it. And then I ended up getting a scholarship to college for pole vaulting. And so I pole vaulted in college and ended up for various reasons, redshirting my sophomore year and then just stepping away from track. One of those reasons was going through some hard personal things and had a lot of depression and like crippling anxiety and a lot of anger and confusion trying to process these things that were going on. I just decided one day that like if I can go for a run, they used to make us run this 2.5 mile loop for track, and I like just died every time they made us do it. And so I decided if I can get up in the morning and do that, nothing else will be harder today. And I can go to my counseling appointment or whatever, and that will not be as hard as this. And so every morning in college that year, the whole town was still asleep. And I would get up and walk out of my dorm and run this darn loop and just die, but I would do it. And it really just forced me during a time where like my world was really shaken and my self-worth was shaken and all of this stuff. Like it forced me to be mentally strong and to have positive self-talk. Like there's no way you can run if you have negative self-talk going through your head. Like you're just not going to do it. And so it really just put me in this position for like 20 minutes a day where like I just willingly got really uncomfortable and I had to force myself to work through that. And it just kind of grew from there. And before I knew it, I was like, maybe I'll go one more block today. And yeah, and now, running marathons and stuff. But for me, like running is just a reminder of, how far I've come, and it's an empowering thing to do. And it's much more than a workout for me. It runs quite a bit deeper than that. So yeah.
And you and I got into running the same thing, because running was always punishment for sport.
Yes.
I was your typical, football, wrestling, baseball, and running was always pursued wrestling, right? But it was always punishment. It was always fear. And
Yep.
When I graduated college, you go from this, having a whole schedule of routine and practices and coaches, and then you have to somehow stay elevated, right? Stay accountable. And I jumped into running because I was scared of it. And the mental acuity I got from it was just unreal. And I love how every day you force yourself to tackle this uncomfortable thing, and you come out on the other side so much more clear. And like, what can you tell people who are out there who are dealing with the struggle, right? I mean, running may not be their answer, but like, what was it for you? Like what about it made it so willpowering, I guess?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, for people who are going through it, I mean, for me, like I'm a woman of faith. And so that certainly was my biggest rock during that time. But for me, finding a physical way to express what was going on inside in a healthy way. Like if I was feeling anxious, I could express that. I could get that out during my run. If I was nervous about something or really angry, like I could find a physical way, right? Like when you're in counseling or whatever, like you're just sitting there, and that's great too. And that's so, so important. But there was part of me that like needed to like physically express this stuff. And so, yeah, it might not be running for everybody, but just finding that outlet to like, my counselor described a lot of emotions as like energy in our bodies that are like wanting to get out. And so for me, it was just a great outlet to express, some hard feelings in a healthy way. But also, like you said, just really forcing you to find ways to be comfortable while you're uncomfortable. And to talk yourself through, discomfort. Like, this sucks. This is painful. This is going to end. Like, this isn't forever. And you're strong and you can get through it. Focus on one foot in front of the other, one breath at a time, one step at a time. And I think that can really translate to how we process hard things in everyday life. One step at a time, one breath at a time, all of those things. And I find that running really teaches me a lot about life. If you keep your mind open to it.
Yeah, I find that the human spirit is so amazing, because it's crazy to me to think of you as like college age person and somehow getting to that realization of, okay, I'm just going to do this hard thing, especially when you were already struggling and in such a hard place, like mentally and personally, and then to still go, okay, I just need to do this thing. Like, how did you arrive at that? Do you remember? Or did it was just part of your life to move your body already, and so you just thought to do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it was a mix of things. Like, sometimes when people ask me this, I tell them it was like this Forrest Gump thing. Like, I just had this urge. Like, I just have to go out. I have to get away. I have to I have all this energy in my body. I have to get it out in some way. And so I think part of it was that, and part of it was like, I had always admired it. I had always admired people who could just go. And like, to me, it seemed like something that would be so peaceful, but also empowering and energizing at the same time. And like, I used to die when they made us do 2 laps around the track for a warm up. Like, I was like, how do you guys do that? I can't run a half a mile. And so to me, like, once I stepped away from pole vaulting, it was like, I now had this permission to do that, because they would never let us run long distances. If you're a pole vaulter, like, you got to sprint, you got to do sprint and power and agility and all this stuff. And so I never really got a chance to do it. And so I think it was just a combination of now having that freedom to try, and also just really having so much inside that I needed to get out, and I needed to find a way to like still my mind. And for me, sometimes that means I need to move my body, and then my mind can calm down. I don't know if that's true for anybody else, but
it is for me. Like, talk about how you feel. Like, let's say you go out for a long training run, okay, and you get it done.
Yeah.
And like, how do you feel the moment it's done, the moment you're back at your car, the moment you're starting to cool down? Like, isn't it exhilarating? It's so cleansing. Like, how do you feel?
It's just, it's like you purged something. It feels relieving almost, in a way. Like, man, I just did something really hard. But also for me, like, on some runs, I'm like, I just figured out a solution to that problem. Or like, man, I just got some really good ideas for something, or I feel much less stressed out. But yeah, there's no feeling quite like just going and going and going and really just kind of seeing what you're made of out there and not being afraid to test your limits and kind of push that a little bit. There's a real sense of like empowerment and satisfaction that comes from finishing something like that and being like, I just did that. And now my mind feels a little bit better because I also had time to just kind of process stuff while I was out there, you know, dying a slow death, running around the track a million times.
We're gonna turn everyone here listening into runners, Kaylin. Even Darian, I can tell she's so excited to get out and run. And Darian, what do you think about our talk about running?
I don't know. Well, it's kind of like what you guys said. Like I ran track, and like I think before I ran track as a kid, Kaylin, like that feeling you're describing, I felt that as a young kid, like from the time I was like really allowed to go off on my own. When I felt really upset, I used to go and just run around. And I didn't think of it as like, this is a form of exercise. I just felt like I had this pent up energy. And then because of that, I got into track, and track ruined it for me. And I hate to like blame track because it wasn't an all bad experience, but it's such a painful sport because it's just like your max. I was a sprinter. I ran 400 meter distance, which is a brutal distance to sprint. And it was just so physically painful. The feeling I felt afterwards, like putting all my effort out there, was not like a feeling of joy to me. It was like, oh my God, I'm gonna barf right now. Like it was truly physically painful, and it made me not want to run anymore. And like the idea of running is nice to me because you don't need anything. You need a pair of sneakers and that's it. You don't need any special equipment. That's what I like about it. Just go, walk out of your door and go. But how does someone get there? I'm sure there are people listening who are like, yeah, I'd love to run. I'd love to just get out and move, or I have that pent up energy, or I just want to work out or exercise, but I don't have the budget for a trainer right now or a gym right now. How does someone get started?
Yeah, I think like I can relate to you so much about track. Like that was why I stepped away from it in college, because the joy was taken out of it. I didn't enjoy going to practice. I didn't enjoy pole vaulting. It became a job. Like it was all business, you know, like you better perform or you're done. And, you know, they didn't really care about you so much as a person, at least where I was. And so I think the beautiful thing about running is that you get to decide what it means for you. You know, when I was in track, I made up this rule in my head that like distance running is hard and it sucks and I can't do it. But you get to decide, like, is that rule true? Is that helping me? Or is that holding me back? Do I need to make a new rule? So what I would say is like, just listen to your body and go. You don't have to, like, running doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be, running as fast as you can every day and to the point of where it feels painful and you want to barf. There might be a few workouts, you know, in a build where I might get to that point, but running can be what you want it to be. And if you want it to be hard, run hard. And if you want it to be relaxing and enjoyable, slow down and enjoy being outside and enjoy nature and get under the blue sky and feel the sun on your skin. And like, that's what running can be too. It doesn't have to be this like super hardcore thing. And I would say that if you're trying to get into running and it always feels like death, slow down.
That was actually really powerful to hear, because even you just giving me the permission, like, yeah, just slow down, just enjoy being outside. I rarely think to go for a run these days, but if I do, because I have tried in the past, recently in the past, and my thought process is always so negative around, like, this is gonna hurt, it's gonna hurt my joints, it's gonna hurt my feet, I get a tension in my shoulders, I'm gonna be super out of breath. And to just have the permission to go like, well, you don't need to do a hard run, you can just do what feels right. And I know you talked to us before we started this conversation today about how you base your training on feel, and like you are for the listener, you're not just running marathons, you're winning marathons. You are like a runner, like really like elite. You are. And so it's interesting to hear you say, oh, I base my runs on feel. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I think for so long, especially being in track and things like that, and most coaches, you're basing your run off a time or off a clock, right? And for me, I wasn't really realizing how much that not only stressed me out, but it ended up hurting me for two reasons. One, like, we need to have a lot of days where we're just running and every part of that run should feel easy. And so if I'm trying to hit a certain pace, even on my easy runs, and that it tells me to tune out from my body and tune into the clock. And so sometimes that would mean I'd be doing my easy runs too fast when really I needed some more recovery that day and I should have been running slower. On the flip side, paces that I would, see on my watch on my hard running days, and I would look at that, I would be like, oh my gosh, this is way too fast. I cannot do this. Like, I can't hit this pace. I can't sustain this. And I would talk myself out of it when really my body was fine and I could hit that pace. And so, like, this is, I don't know if you know Sarah Hall. She's a professional marathoner. She really bases her training off of feel too. And for me, man, it took my training and my performance to the next level because I was allowed to do whatever the heck I needed to do on an easy day for that run to feel easy. And then I was better recovered for those hard days where I could just let her rip. And who cares what my watch says? Like, I'm going by what feels hard. And I would surprise myself because I'm actually recovering well on my easy days. I'm not trying to hit this pace or that pace. It's really been a game changer. And it helps me tune into my body instead of try to ignore what my body is telling me. I can't remember the last time I was injured. Like, I've never torn a ligament. Knock on wood, my God. But I think it really helps keep me safe, but also just gives me that permission, kind of like we were talking about, to run wicked, wicked slow if I need it. And on the days I feel amazing, like, that pace feels slow. Forget that. Like, I'm going faster today. I feel great. So yeah, it's been a game changer for me.
Kaylin, you sound like my triathlon coach. I had a tri coach for almost 4 years, and the same thing. Everything was based on feel, and you have to ignore the social media posts, right? You have to ignore what others are doing. You have to even ignore your watch, ignore the pace. Yep. And I wanted to see if you agree with me is there's this huge gray zone for a lot of intermediate runners out there because most of them are intermediate, very few are elite, right? And I'm definitely an intermediate guy. And the biggest mistake I made is running too fast all the time. And even Ethiopians and Kenyans and the world class, 80% of their running volume is super easy. Now, their super easy is like 5 minute, 6 minute pace.
Right. Oh my gosh.
Most people train in that too hard of range. They're not making their easy runs easy and their hard runs really hard. Is that true? Is that a very common mistake beginners make?
I would absolutely agree with that. You're not giving your body a chance to recover to run faster. If we put this in weightlifting terms, that would be like saying lift your heaviest deadlift every day of the week. Do the same intensity and the same muscles every day of the week. Like, nobody who is a coach would write that for somebody, right? Like, you need to give those muscles a break. You need to vary things, vary intensity. And the same is true with running. Like, you should not be, hitting that pavement every day trying to get a PR. That's just breaking you down more than it's building you up. And just like, when we're lifting, we need recovery days. We need days where we're letting those muscles repair and recover. And when we have those easy runs where, like, you should be able to sing a song easy, like, not even just talk, but sing a song like that easy. That is not only letting your muscles recover, but those easy runs grow the mitochondria in your cells. They improve your aerobic base. They increase what's the word I'm looking for? The durability of your tendons and your ligaments, so you can do those hard runs. It's an investment in faster running. So
and there's recover too.
Yeah. and you recover. I mean, we think of the easy run days as like, well, this is pointless. Why am I even out here? But it does so much good. And just like with lifting, like those rest days are productive. That's when our body is repairing and getting stronger. Like the rest days are important. And those days are what give us our epic fast days or our epic lifts and PRs and things like that.
Okay, I want to pull up some statistics. Okay.
Oh, boy.
Well, I won't pull up too many, but I just pulled up some, and approximately, this is as of 2024, 65 to 80% of runners will experience some form of injury each year. The most common are shin splints, runner's knee, and stress fractures. So for the people listening who are like, oh gosh, I'm not, for the Darians listening who are like, I'm not a runner, my knees hurt, my ankles hurt, etc. What can they do to like, what's a good first step to not even think about getting injured?
I think that's great. There's a few things. Just like doing a deadlift or a squat improperly is going to hurt your knees or your back. Running improperly is going to do the same thing, right? So we have to make sure that our form is good. Just like a personal trainer would check your squat form or your plank form or your push-up form, like make sure your form is solid. There's YouTube videos out there. You could get a running gait analysis. Typically at like physical therapy locations, they'll have specialists that will do that for you. I know we have them in my area. So I would recommend that, and then not progressing too quickly. So like I said, with those easy runs, you're building this base, you're building this foundation, like you're helping to strengthen your tendons, your ligaments, those mitochondria in your cells, like your body needs those. And if you go from not running at all to doing like some interval sprint workout, like that's not going to be good. So making sure that you are taking things slow and listening to your body while you're running. Like if something hurts to the point of altering your stride to where your stride is lopsided or you're really having to compensate, like that is a red flag. You need to stop. As runners, we can get into this mindset of like, I gotta push through the pain. I gotta do more. I can't be a sissy, like all this. But there really are times where it's like, no, like that would just be being stupid. Like you still need to be smart and know what is okay to push through and what isn't.
Yeah, that's really good advice. And one of the first things, Joey, on one of our earliest episodes, remember I had just...
Hill sprints.
Yeah, I did the hill sprints and what did I do? I pulled a calf or I messed up I don't even know what I did, but I was like, oh, why would I ever think that with having done zero running, I should do some hill sprints out of the blue? Like I barely even warmed up. It was so stupid. But I'm curious because, your tips for beginners, it sounds like get an evaluation if you can, just or watch some YouTube videos, dial in the form. And are you dialing that form in on just a casual jog, or are there drills that people should be doing?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yeah, I mean, I think warming up before a run is super important. Like you want to get your glutes activated, you want to get your core activated, your upper back, to make sure that your posture is solid. So for me, what that looks like is doing some deep squats, like in our app, they're called froggies. Mm-hmm. So I'll do those, and some Frankensteins and some A-skips and some lateral lunges and some mountain climbers, just to wake up the right muscles. So I think all of those are important, but cross training in general is a game changer for runners that really helps us create a durable body that can withstand the impact of running. Like every running step you take is 5 to 7 times your body weight in force, and we have to be able to absorb that. In 6-7 miles, you're taking 10,000 steps, and so we have to be able to absorb that properly, thousands of times every run. So strength training is super important too.
Oh man, can we unpack that a little bit? What are your top 3 strength exercises for runners? Because a lot of runners are like, oh my gosh, I don't want to lift. I'm afraid I'm going to get too bulky. What do you tell them?
Really? Oh, top 3. Oh my gosh. That's really hard to narrow down. Bulgarian split squats, love and hate those. A good lateral motion, like a lateral lunge or a mini band squat side steps to get those hips working is good. And then any type of plank variation is great too. I guess if I had to choose 3, that's really hard though.
So how do the people who are already running and they're okay, I want to level this up. I maybe want to try a race, and I maybe they have a goal for their race or something like that. How do they go from just being a casual beginner runner? That's kind of like who we've been talking to so far, to going to like that next level?
Great question. I think, if you're a casual runner and you're running regularly, like just some chill runs consistently, like you've built a good base, just kind of like we talked about. So from that point, what I would do with an athlete would be to add in progressively some speed work and work on that turnover and things like that in a really like gentle and progressive way, and then sprinkle in strength training. And since we do that, we really need to make sure that we have easy days in there, right? The harder our hard days get, the more we need to value those recovery days, those easy days. So that's the next step I would take.
What's your favorite speed workout?
I don't know. I like it all, honestly. Like I love going to the track and just ripping as many 400s as I can, as fast as I can. And just seeing, like, give myself some good recovery time between each of them and just really work on pure speed and just let her rip. And then on the other side of the spectrum, just going out for like a really hilly 10 to 12 miler and just seeing how fast I can do it. Just be like really having to use those mental strength muscles to get through those miles and stuff. Those would probably be my two favorites. And then honestly, just hitting the trails and doing whatever the heck pace I want to and being out there however long I want. It's pretty nice too.
Can you define some lingo terms for our listeners too?
Like what?
Let's start with, what is a fartlek?
A fartlek. Nice. That's such a fun word. My children like it. Can't imagine why. A fartlek is training that alternates in intensity and duration, and the rest periods between also alternate too. So it's like a lot of times people will describe it as quote unquote speed play. So lots of different lengths of hard running and various intervals of rest in between.
How about cross training? What is cross training?
Anything that's not running. But for me, what that looks like is I go on the elliptical to get some lower impact, and kind of just give my joints a bit of a break, and strength training. But for some people, that means that they, for a few months they play basketball in a league or do some biking. I have a lot of people in the group that I run with cycle quite a bit as well. So yeah.
What is a shakeout run?
A shakeout run. That is typically what you would do like the day before a race. At least that's when I do it, or like the day before, like if you're doing like a long run workout or something like that. What a shakeout is the easiest of easy pace and very short. And the point of that is just to get your muscles warm, just to wake your body up a little bit. And that's it. That's the point of it. And to help you recover for the day tomorrow.
I'll give you one more, and maybe Darian has a few. What is interval running?
My favorite. That's what it is. Interval running is high intensity running with recovery in between those bouts of high intensity running. So what that might look like is the other day at the track, I did like a 3.5 mile warm up, and then I did 4 bouts of 2K, which is 1.25 miles hard. And then I took a 400-meter jog, like shuffle, barely running recovery. So that's an example of an interval workout.
Yeah, those are great. I honestly didn't know what any of those were. I like to block out everything that is running from my brain. But you are inspiring me, Kaylin. I maybe will try it. I want to definitely leave our listeners with like some fun, overrated, underrated, and kind of like putting all these practical tips together. But before that, I do want to ask you, because I know you mentioned it at the top of the episode, that someone in your community was attacked while running, and I want to make sure runners are staying safe while they're outside, because it can be dangerous, especially like you, Kaylin, you're running in the early hours of the morning. It's not even light out. I'm sure some people are going after work before or after the sun sets. how can runners make sure they're staying safe in terms of like other people, cars, animals, that kind of thing?
Yeah, especially this time of year, like it's just so dark. So something that I do is I always, if I'm going that early, I'm always asking people in my group, like, hey, are you guys running? Like, want to run together? Because yeah, I just get a little uneasy, and certainly get to know your area. Like, at least where I live, like there's certain parts of town where I would never run alone in the dark. I probably wouldn't even go there during the day by myself, when the sun is up. So get to know your area. You can carry mace or something like that. My husband is really getting on me to buy some of that, because I feel like I'm falling short in that area. I don't have any. But another thing is, like, my Garmin, my husband can track me every run that I do. And you can, you just include whoever's email you want to track you during a run. So when I go running early in the morning, if I can't find anybody to run with and it's super dark, I will always turn that on so he can track me. I always run with my phone just so I can make a call if needed. But a Garmin as well will, like if you fall or something, or if something abrupt happens, it will sense that there's an emergency. And if you don't like push a certain button within 10 seconds, it's calling 911 and they will track your location. So having that on is good as well.
Yeah.
Can I add something to that real quick? The like ultras, like when you're out for like 10 hours and your wife's wondering where you are and there's no self-service and you can't get anything, Garmin makes an amazing little beacon that constantly tracks where you are. And so if you do get lost, or if you can still message and they can still track your GPS.
I imagine like wearing reflectors is probably a good idea too. If like you're running by busy streets, and or maybe not. You don't think so?
You know what? Like, I have to be honest with you. I was just talking to my husband and my stepdad about this. I'm like, what is better at this point? Is it better for me to be seen, or is it better for me to not be seen so people can't get me? Like, I don't even know anymore. Obviously, if you're running on a busy street, you should probably wear something reflective. For me, when I go running in my neighborhood, it's very, very low traffic. I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't know what's better. I really don't.
Yeah.
I wish I had an answer, but like, I don't know if it's better just for nobody to see me and run, facing traffic so I can just dodge a car if I need to. I really don't know. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy out there right now.
Yeah, it sounds like you just have to like know your area, like you said. And like I've seen runners like doing hand signaling to point to the direction they're going to go. So like a car doesn't turn right and they're going straight, assuming that the runner's also going to go right. I think just probably learning different like cues is a good idea.
Totally. And just being aware, which sucks, honestly, because some of my favorite runs are the ones where I can just zone out and not think about anything and just get this like tunnel vision and just go and, process whatever I need to process. But there really are times where that's not safe to do. Like, keep one of your earbuds out, keep your head on a swivel, and really just like don't ignore those spidey senses. Like, if something feels off, it probably is. Do something about it, change your course or whatever. And then another thing is something simple you can do is to just vary your route. Try to start at a little different time if you can, run a different route so people aren't noticing patterns, things like that can help too.
Yeah. Watch out for rattlesnakes.
I live in Illinois, man. I don't mess with that.
Joey,
worst thing I gotta worry about is a mosquito.
Oh gosh, we have them all over in the summer here.
Do you want to do some overrated, underrated, Joey? Do we have time?
Yeah, I will kick us off. So let me give you a rundown, Kaylin. What we basically just ask you something, and then you answer overrated, underrated, and you do a quick why. And then we'll take it to another topic. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Let's start with the hot topic lately. Zone 2 cardio, overrated or underrated?
Underrated. We need those easier days.
Okay, I'm going to go with barefoot running from this list because I see some people wearing cloud shoes and some people wearing no shoes.
Right? I think it can be beneficial if you do it in a smart way. I don't know if I could say that it's overrated or underrated. It can be really beneficial to learn. It helps you learn like a proper midfoot strike and running stride. So like barefoot running on the grass is awesome to just kind of get the feel for that, it forces you to not heel strike. Like nobody's going to heel strike if you have no padding under your heels. Yeah. So it can be beneficial, but I did a race in Chicago once and a guy ran the entire half marathon barefoot in the streets of Chicago. Like that, I would say overrated.
Was it Barefoot Ted from Born to Run? Born to Run. Anyway.
I don't know, but I was just like, really?
Hey, while we're on footwear, carbon plated shoes or the Kipchoge shoes or shoes in general, are they overrated or underrated?
Shoes in general, underrated. I think finding a great shoe that fits well for you can be a game changer. If we're talking carbon plates, I'm kind of on the fence about them. Like I wear them for races. I'm not going to say I don't wear them, but I don't like to wear them all the time because I want my body to work. I want my body to do that work that the carbon plate kind of saves you from, but also I want that little boost during a race because it gives me a little ego boost when I see my splits. It feels kind of good.
That's awesome. Okay, so maybe like one more, unless Joey has one that he's like,
oh, I can go on for days, man. I'll give her one more after this. That's good.
Okay, I want to ask you about flexibility for runners, overrated, underrated?
I would say that's underrated. I mean, if you think about like the running stride, how mobile do our legs have to be to do that properly? Having mobility, I mean, is going to save you from, you know, pulling muscles, trying to get a nice big stride. It's going to save you from, you know, back pain because your hamstrings are so tight. All of those things, I think it's underrated for sure.
All right, Kaylin, I'll give you one more. We already kind of talked about it, but I think it's just so mislooked. But strength training and building muscle, training for muscle while you're a runner, overrated or underrated?
Oh, it's so underrated. That's probably the biggest game changer and the biggest, like, my secret weapon for me. Like, that's what's going to give you power. That's what's going to help you maintain your posture while you're running. That's what's going to, again, like we talked about, give you that durability, like allow your body to absorb the high impact of running without getting injured. Obviously, accidents happen, like runners will get injured even if they do all of these things, but just greatly decreases your risk for injury. It improves your running economy. It helps you run up hills faster. I mean, it does all the things. It's great.
That's awesome. I think just to like wrap this up, what would you want people to know? Like, what would you want their biggest takeaway to be who are listening to this episode, whether they're thinking about getting into running or they're thinking about taking it to the next level?
Oh man, that's a hard question. Biggest takeaway is, you know, as runners, we're so often in this mindset of tuning out our bodies. But I think that tuning in can be a real game changer. If you're thinking of taking it to the next level, if you're thinking of starting running, just being able to train smart and not hard all the time. And just remembering that like running can literally be whatever you want it to be. You're not on some team. You're not like getting paid to do this. Like you can make it whatever the heck you want it to be. And that's okay.
I love that.
Do you know what Will Smith used to say?
Welcome to Miami.
Welcome to Miami. He always said the two biggest keys to life are running and reading, because, and this ties into how you started, Kaylin, is reading because whatever you're looking to do, someone's already done it before you and has written about it. So learn from their mistakes. And he says running because if you can conquer that 2.5 mile run around the track or a 2.5 mile, whatever it is, you will go far in life.
Totally. Like running is such a metaphor for life in so many ways. Like life is hard. It's never not going to be hard. And so, you know, consistently putting yourself into those, like voluntarily putting yourself into those positions of, you know, being uncomfortable in a controlled environment can just be a game changer, like not just physically for you, but, you know, mentally. And it can really change the way that you show up in the world.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Kaylin, for joining us today. It was really great to talk to you. You truly are such an inspiration For the listener, Kaylin will regularly post pictures of herself in our like company work channels of her eyelashes frozen solid because she's running at like 5 a.m. in the frigid cold temperatures. So Kaylin, we would love to actually have you back at some point to continue this conversation, and just, I'm sure there's so many people out there who want to get better at running.
Absolutely. I'm so down. This was so fun. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Kaylin. We thank you guys, as always, so much for listening to our wonderful running episode with Trainer Kaylin. As always, if you haven't already, please give us a good review, a 5-star review if you loved us. And we'd love to hear from you. We can now accept text message. Just find the show description below, or send us an email.
Also, if you want to work directly with Kaylin through Trainwell, you can find her link in the show description, in the episode description. And additionally, if you want to just get matched with a one-on-one personal trainer through Trainwell, you can find that link as well.